So imagine you're teaching a communication class. It could be any of the 4 flavors, any mix of the 4 flavors. At the end of the class, your students have done all sorts of new things. Question is, how are they going to remember to do any of it after the class is over? They're a little bit like our ski student. Remember our ski student? 20 new pointers. They've skied terrain they've never skied before. They're a little bit confused by it all. Next time they're on snow, they're without a teacher. How do they remember to do anything? Focus point. And I'm going to advance 3 slides forward. 1, that's the focus point slide. 2, 3. Now, 1 more. Focus point. Excellent. The focus point is the antidote to cognitive overload in this kind of work. Now, in a ski lesson, at the end of the ski lesson, the instructor gives the student a focus point. It's the one physical activity that you're going to do that will pull everything else along with it. For example, for me, keeping my hands in front where I can see them makes everything else happen. The focus point equivalent for a communication class is the answer to this question. What is one thing that you want to take from today? Each student will have their own focus point. Everyone responds to this material differently because everyone communicates differently. Alrighty, so let's practice this one. So please share with your partner one thing that you want to take away from what I've been talking about, or one thing you want to remember. So you're teaching a class, you have your focus points, your students have their focus points. Now what? This is where the second element of impactful closings comes in, and it's the after-class practice. All right? This is my favorite PowerPoint animation ever. See if it works. Ooh. And I got to see it back there. Okay, lots of ways to do after-class practices. Talk about 3 of them. Diffusion, most common. Diffusion is when you teach a class, it's a good class, you don't need an after-class practice. They learned what they need to learn, they're going to use it when they need it. Most communication classes, and dare I say it, most classes end this way. All right? And it's effective, especially if the class was engaging. And I'm going to look at my deliberate practice colleague over there. If you want a deliberate practice, self-directed is an option. Self-directed is where you ask the students to come up with a method that they would use once a day to remember their focus point. Now, odds are in a group of healthcare professionals, they're really good at figuring out how to remember to do things. And if you're doing this kind of work, if you want to ante this one up, you ask them to send you a daily email updating you on their progress. Now, a commitment to sending an email focuses the mind. And receiving emails, if you're the instructor, is really informative and gratifying too. Now, if you want an even more deliberate practice, tiny habits, and I am so passionate about this one. Okay, what is it? Tiny habits is a creation of Dr. B.J. Fogg, who is the founder and director of the Stanford Persuasion Lab. Has anyone ever heard of that? I know Rebecca has. Cool, all righty. They are in the business of helping businesses change our behavior. Like, if you've ever wondered why website design is the way it is, why you're on Facebook instead of MySpace, you're using Uber instead of Lyft, Amazon success, Dr. Fogg's work is behind a lot of these decisions that we make, all right? He took the same underlying principles and he created a life hack he calls tiny habits. In tiny habits, instead of businesses changing our behavior, we change our behavior. And when we're talking about these focus points is behavior change. All right, so how does it work? Slide. 20,000-foot view, Richard's view on tiny habits. The 3 T's. It's a medical thing, like the 5 T's and the H's. 3 T's for tiny habits. Tinify, trigger, train. Tinification. Isn't that a cool word? That's what he calls it. Tinification. This is where you pick a small step towards your goal, a small step that is so tiny as to seem ridiculous. So for example, say I took that leadership class. I kind of got really into this whole Game of Thrones physical expansion thing. I'm kind of shy and I want to do this. So my behavior goal is, my focus point is, when I'm asserting leadership, like I'm making a presentation on as a medical student in a group of people, I'm going to stand a little bit bigger. That's my focus point. Tinify it, okay? Here's a version of it. Once a day, I'm going to stand big for 1 second. That's the tiny, ridiculous version of it. All right, step 2, trigger. Find a spot in my daily routines where this could fit in. For example, lots of daily routines. I get out of bed, feet touch the ground, walk across the hall, I'm in the bathroom, I'm brushing my teeth. Every day I brush my teeth, I'm gonna fit it in there. Step 3, train it. So my training regimen is, after I brush my teeth, I'm gonna stand tall for 1 second. And I love the brushing teeth thing because I'm watching myself do it in the mirror, so it's kind of got that cool element. That's the practice. And after I do this, Dr. Fogg suggests doing a celebratory gesture to cement it into your nervous system. And he has lots of suggestions on how to do this, but I'm going to demo one, and then we're going to do it together. It's really cool. Ready? Awesome. So all together. Awesome. Fantastic. So in the Tiny Habits, we do the training. After I brush my teeth, I stand tall for 1 second, 5 days, or however many days I want to do it. Now, it seems kind of, I thought maybe this is a little silly and kind of self-helpy, but the fact is, the odds of this bringing me towards my goal of doing this when I'm presenting on rounds, the odds of this working is higher than me somehow remembering to do this, which goes against every fiber of my being in the heat of battle. This stuff works. It's what makes Amazon and Uber and all those places really successful. Okay, how would you use this in your own work? It's easier than you might think. You don't have to reinvent this wheel. Dr. Fogg runs ongoing web sessions in which you and your students can take your communication goals, your focus points, to these web sessions, and then there you get facilitated, you convert to Tiny Habits, 5 days, 10 minutes a day, free and fun. Now, if this stuff ends up being really interesting to you and you become passionate like I have, you can do upper level courses with him, all online. You can become certified in the technique. It's amazing. I've used it for example, one of my things about presenting is I forget to breathe, which I'm doing now probably. So my tiny habit has been take a deep breath in before I start blabbing. And it's been amazingly effective, and I would never have gotten there without this. Okay, so lots of after-class practices. Now we're moving on to the final element of the impactful closings, the good finish. We have got this. It is customary in a performing arts and business-inspired training to end with appreciations. It's where the teacher expresses some appreciations to the students for what they've done, or you can ask the students to appreciate each other. So let's try that now. Please give your partner an appreciation for the work that you did today in this talk. And it's customary after the appreciations to do a final activity, which we're going to do in a moment. But now let's do a simulation, a virtual simulation. So close your eyes and imagine that you're teaching a communication class. It's the beginning of the class. The students have just filed in. They've got their phones out. They're checking Facebook. They're sending text messages. And you open the class with an engaging opening. And you see the room go from a state of uncertainty to interest in what is about to happen. Keeping your eyes closed, fast forward to the end of this class. You're sitting in a circle with the students and you're talking, you're debriefing, you're talking about focus points, you're talking about after-class practices, and you know that the students are going to use what they learned. This is not just a one-time deal. Change of scene. Now you're teaching a class, the students are up and about. Next to you is an improv professional. You're co-teaching. You're doing medical improv. You're having the time of your life because this is the most fun class you've ever taught. Change of scene. You're in the hospital cafeteria. You're eating by yourself, but not for long because one of your colleagues comes up and sits across from you. It turns out they are attending on the wards this month at the hospital, and they say to you, hey, I've seen you around, and I heard you're teaching this really weird class called medical improv. I don't know much about it, but I do want to tell you a couple of the students on the ward service had taken that class, and I want to let you know that they are different. They are so ahead of the curve in how they connect to people, to patients, and to each other. Feels good. Take a deep breath and open your eyes. And now it's my turn for appreciations. Thank you to Dr. Gaba and Sandy, where are you? Sandy Feaster and Michelle and my bell ringer, Rebecca. Drew for doing the yes and with me. And thank you to all of you for just being great sports and doing these exercises, especially the Game of Thrones thing. You guys rocked that. All right. And as promised, the final activity. And a quick little advertisement. We are doing a session with Rebecca teaching it this afternoon. I've heard it's full, but there may be a space or two left, and you can talk to Michelle about it if you want to join in. It's going to be awesome. So now the final activity. Awesome is what it's going to be. The final activity, and there's a lot of these too, and I just picked one I particularly like, and it's great to close out sessions with this because it differentiates the work you've been doing from then you're going to emerge and go out into the real world and conquer, right? So here's the final activity. We're going to do a simultaneous hand clap all together. The goal, loose goal, is to make a single sound. We may not get there. It might be like a da 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 da. That's cool too. We'll give it 3 tries. Whenever it's done, this talk is over. All right, so you ready? You ready? Okay, that fell into the da 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 category. We have 2 more tries. All right, ready? Going with that. Yes. All right.
Awesome.
Awesome.